We're back on the bench, and I'm joined today with James, who's going to do most of the work. And we've got cameraman Craig. You'll see him float in and out of camera and view. And today we're going to be tearing apart and find out what went wrong with the Nissan RE4 R03A out of a Nissan Patrol. So we thought we'd give a 4-speed box a crack and take it apart. Now this box was actually sent to us from Tom at Rome Life, who's actually doing an episode, we're doing a few episodes at the moment, about putting a Ford JJ1 diesel conversion into his GU. And this is the auto that he wants to use, and he wants to use our billet torque converter. This was the box he was having trouble with previously. He said that he'd taken the pan off a couple of times, the oil was burnt, a little bit of metal, not a great deal in that. Thought it was torque converter, so he took the torque converter apart physically. The torque converter was like brand new, so he didn't find a problem in the torque converter. So we're going to take it apart and see what we can find, if anything, and we'll see how we go. But before we get started, a lot of people that deal with these Nissan 4-speed would have heard the terminology when you hear about us talk about a ribbed bell housing and a smooth bell housing. So even though we're just taking one of the autos apart today, I've actually got one of the earlier smooth bell housings, so we can actually describe what the differences is. Now basically, as soon as you see them, you'll see that the bell housing on the later model, now this basically come out, this bell housing type came out when the GQ went to EFI. That same year, the diesel also changed, and from that time onward, which would have been about, what, 1993, thereabouts, late 1992, they changed to a rib bell housing. Opposed to the early bell housing that's completely smooth, apart from a couple of little ribs. But not to confuse anybody, it is not just the fact that there's a rib bell housing and a smooth bell housing. They are actually different. What happened is that Nissan noticed that they were having trouble with the size of the small torque converter that went with the smooth bell housing. When they did that, they go, right, we're going to put a bigger torque converter in. To do that, they needed more room, so they made a bigger bell housing, which is what we call the ribbed one. When they did that, they didn't just make it bigger in size, they also made it longer in length. So the ribbed bell housing, at a quick guess, is what, 18 centimetres long, as with the smooth bell housing it is only, what, 16.3 centimetres long. But the autos are still the same length. So when they put the longer bell housing on the later box, they shortened the output shaft and they shortened the extension housing on the back. So the early box has a short smooth bell housing, has the long output shaft and the long extension housing. The late box has the long bell housing, but it is the opposite. It has a short output shaft and the short extension housing. I don't want to go into it in too much detail, but I wanted to show you what the difference was between a smooth and a ribbed box. They're not interchangeable. You can't just take a bell housing off of a late one and put it on an early one, because then your auto ends up being 2 centimetres longer than what it's supposed to be. So it makes it difficult. And you can't change the back, obviously, for the same reason. You'll either make it too short or too long, but the output shaft's completely different as well, and you can't just pull the output shaft out. The whole box has got to come apart and do it like that. I'm not sure, I think the input shaft splines are also...
Input shafts are shorter, I think.
Yeah, the splines coming out of the pump are also different. So we tell a lot of people that are actually got the older GQs that are actually wanting to update, we actually encourage a lot of them to turn around and put a later model auto in. If it's in the same hole, you might have to do a couple of mods if you've got a diesel, because you obviously need to change the bolt pattern to a 3-bolt starter motor. But then you end up with a box that's just, the later autos, they made so many changes to them, it made a massive difference. You've got to remember, this is one of the longest running autos that I know of. It started with the old GQ 1988, early 1988. It went all the way through to the last of the, 2015 in the utes. I think it was in the ute, or was it on the wagon?
No, in the wagon, yeah.
The ZD30 wagon. So we'll shove that one out of the way. We don't need to work on that one today. Now, Tom from Rome Life, when he sent this down, he said he had a couple of problems with it. We're going to see if we can take it apart. We're going to build it up for him and his 4JJ. So it's not a standard box that we're going to be building. It's going to be a heavy duty one. We're only doing the teardown today to find out what went wrong, and we'll go from there. So let's start. Let's get kicking. Now, if you're taking a bell housing off of one of these Nissan RE4s and you're swapping for a bell housing, or you're swapping for an adapter or doing something like that, you've got to be really careful. It is so easy because this bell housing is actually
Well, the bell housing bolts hold the pump in.
Yeah,
To the case.
so,
Yeah.
but they also use a sealant on the bell housing that glues it basically to the pump. So if you want to take the bell housing, for us it makes no difference. So we're stripping the box down, we can just whack it out. But if you're trying to pull the bell housing off without taking the pump out, you need to lock the pump in. Whether you have it up against something with a block of wood or something, you need to have something holding it in so when you tap the bell housing off, it doesn't rip the hole. How many people we had ring us up and gone, I went to change the bell housing to do something, and before they know it, the pump and everything's on the ground in front of them and that, and it's really, really hard to put back in. So,
You can do the honours.
see if I can get it off in one go. See if the pump comes out, hey? Nothing's coming out. Wow, that's glued on good. You took all the bolts out, you turn it.
It's coming. Keep going.
Pump's coming out as well. That is really stuck on there.
There you go.
All right. So you can see that when the pump sticks on there, look at that, it just pulls the whole inside out, which is a complete pain. So you want to avoid doing that. So if you don't want the pump assembly to come out, make sure, and normally it's like a block of wood jammed up against something, holding the pump in there while you're trying to get it off. Let's continue. You need to get that off now.
Yes. Just take that over.
Pull the shaft out. You got it off?
Yep.
You got it? Oh, it's the input shaft. Put that somewhere.
Go.
Are you trying? Yeah. Oh, I feel like something's giving. Oh. A loose. Oh, yeah, right. That's how it works. All right, we'll throw that bell housing over here. Let's get this pump apart. Swap sides here.
You get me the 12 mil?
You have a 12 minute?
Yep. It's not the one that I was looking for before.
Well, where'd you find it?
In the bin.
Before we started filming, he had us running around looking for his mystery 12 mil, which he'd accidentally thrown in the rubbish. Alright. Alright. Down. Have a look. Pump ring's good. Actually looks quite reasonable. There. I mean the oil's discoloured, but it's not horrible. I'd like to put that in there for you. Or the pump is all good. This is what we call a multi-vane. We've actually looked at them before, where some of them look like gears, but the Turbo 700, the GM box, and also this one, the RE4, RE1, and others, but they've actually got vanes, and you actually see as you move the gear around, all the vanes move around with it. So as this turns, they're actually going in and out. But this all looks pretty good. They're all individual little vanes that just move around in there. They can break. I know the GM used to break them on big rev stuff. These rings used to shatter and let go. All right.
I'll just flick that
Yeah.
spring out. Got a couple of veins on the table.
Yeah. I'm just looking at the pump bush. The pump bushes on these are very, very susceptible. They're a very thick pump bush, and when they overheat, they actually just start to melt the bush a little bit. This one's a little bit choppy in there. You see how the bush is worn a little bit odd. I'm not going to stop it from coming loose.
Oh,
We'll get that.
flick that spring out.
I can do that. If you want
Oh.
to get the next part. slide all looks good. There's a ring on the back of the slide, that all looks good. Even got a pick here. All that looks all brand new.
Can you get me the 10mm socket as well? Yep.
Unless you haven't lost it yet. Another thing you notice too, if you ever have to change a speed sensor on these, there's a couple of different ones. A lot of people get them mixed up because you can get an early one and a late one. And I think, what's this one? This one's, the late one's here, and the early one, it's on a different angle.
The angle changes.
And it doesn't go actually in there. So, all right, what's next?
Now hit it off. You can do it.
I'm on the wrong angle here, but geez, everything in this box. Alright. Park pull mechanism. Spring and everything, it looks good.
I knew I forgot something.
Always something. A hammer. Oh, no.
Did you get it?
No, you can't come back yet.
You're trying to get it.
Yes. I rushed and it was a hard job. Alright. Nothing ever goes wrong with this. The rear park pull mechanism. It's where the ratchets go in. Just keep going. Keep pulling them apart. Rear bearing. So far, no issues. Other way. That's it. Right. All right. We see what was in the pan. Tom was expecting we weren't going to see a lot in the pan because he had it off probably 2,000 Ks before he eventually gave up and sent it to us.
He kept half the bolts for himself.
Feed the mongrel. Actually, we talk about these pans. Yeah, you didn't even send it with the filter back. Stephen, magnet looks good. Oil looks good as well. Like I said, he just serviced this. I don't know what his recollection of dark oil is. Might have to have a look. But there's no tails to be set in there. Oh, there's a couple of pieces in here, but I don't know what they are. Little bits, we'll see. But he's actually already stole the filter off, so we can't have a look.
Usually there's a filter.
Yeah. We're actually building our own deep cast aluminium pan for Nissan RE4, so if you're interested, let us know. So we're actually in the middle of building them at the moment. A nice good cast one. Add to the lineup. That one. Travelling one. Oh, you got it in one. You got that all off? Let's have a look. It's a later model valve body. I can tell by the plates that are on it. Right, we'll take this in when we finish taking this apart, and we'll have a look. We'll take the valve body apart, and we'll let you have a look inside the valve body too. See if we find anything there. So we'll put that aside for now, and let's keep going.
Oh, well, I've seen people try to pull these looms out as well, and do you want to show them why you actually can't just rip them out?
Yeah,
because they've got these tabs.
Tags on the inside.
They've got these tabs that lock inside the case.
You've got this. There you go.
Can you give me the circlip pliers?
Pulling the accumulators out. The only thing that really goes wrong with accumulators is that seals go hard. These seals are actually quite soft. All the seals so far have actually been quite soft. Springs aren't broken. Do you want these in there or not?
Yeah, just chuck them in.
Aluminium piston. You want the O-rings off first?
Oh, either there or there. You can do it yourself now.
Yeah.
I can change them later.
In there. At least I'll take the O-ring. I can see that all the seals are all good. What's next?
Detent spring. So it gives you that feeling between gears.
I call it a cockie's crest.
Yeah.
D10 spring will work. These never crack. I never seen them crack or give us any grief at all. They're all good. Did you think this box was built yesterday? It's actually not that bad. Yeah, I'm using the squeegee that everybody complains about. Yeah. See what I mean? Like, this squeegee. You need a pizza scraper.
A pizza scraper?
Yeah, well, I'd call it a pizza. Hot plate scraper or something. Gets rid of all of this as well. No, squeegees just aren't as good. Thank you. That's the park pull mechanism. That's what engages park. Nothing ever goes wrong with them.
Can you get me the side cutters? Thank you.
Taking the pin out. Allows us to put a new selector shaft seal in it.
Just keep up the valve weight.
Other than a bit of rust that you can see on here, these are actually pretty good, and this one's actually pretty good as well. Actually applies the band. It'll pop off for you in one. Just keep taking it out for me. Just all the seals. All looks good. You can get a performance version of these as well. It allows for more clamping power on the band. You've got to be a little bit careful with the band. The bands can be a little bit soft on them. That's all good. Oh, I need that bit. Don't need these bits. All these seals are good. Once again, no issues thus far. Reverse input. Pop that there. Grab it out. All the frictions on this look really, really good. I'll try and get it in the right light here. They're not burnt, no hot spots. They're fine, that's not the reason. Where the band also runs on here is just like absolutely brand new. Sometimes these get really cut up really badly. But that one's all good. I won't take that piston out, I won't bore you with that. I'll just put that there. Next bit.
Keep going.
Yep, just keep spitting it out for me.
That's the band.
Alright.
And the anchor.
Band is good. It's not burnt anywhere. They tend to lift in the corner with age. When we're doing a high performance one with these, we actually modify the bands. We actually brace the ends because with high performance, one bigger band, especially if you're losing manual valve bodies, tends to bend the struts up on the edge of the band. So we'll have a look here. You'll see that there's mounting positions here on both sides for the band, and they can actually be virtually ripped off, bent off and that. All right, next, put that with its drum. Put some clearance there. See that one straight away. So that's his direct third clutch.
Yep.
Doesn't look horrible,
No,
but
looks good.
that's odd. You reckon this box has been apart before?
Why? Because it looks too good.
No, it's just that that's a lot of clearance in there. Before we even got this out for, so these frictions look great. So I'm just putting them back in. I'm just going to check every steel and every friction as I'm doing it, just to see if I can see anything that's out. That is very thin. That is very thin. It's just a lot of clearance there. But it could be that all the frictions have just worn that little bit. And
Just over 5 or 6 of them. It creates
yeah,
that clearance.
it's just there's a lot of clearance there. I mean, it's hard to see, but it's just got to give it a fairly sloppy third gear. Wouldn't stop it from driving, but certainly give it a very sloppy third gear. All right, what's next? Oh, all the splines seem good here. Where the rings go, everything looks good. I'll take that thrust out of there, just so I know where it is when we go to build it. Bearing's good. All the splines in there are good. The hub, nothing wrong there. Continual. Now this is what we call sun gear. It all looks good. Bearings look good. On earlier models they actually had a big bush in here. And what would happen, that bush would actually walk just a little bit and it would actually block the lube holes and actually blow. The next part we're going to take out now is the front planetary set, or the planetary set. And it actually used to blow, and geez, back in the day, every rebuild you ever had was these pins, around these pins would be blue, and these would be flopping around and everything, just simply because of the lack of lube. You used to just melt them out completely. And they actually made a few changes to the later model boxes. One of them was that they actually removed the bush. And when I first saw this, I thought, so what's holding it? And it just turns out it's just the gears are so neatly done, it just holds it in place. And on the outside, there's nothing braced on the outside, it just sits neatly on the drum. So it really can't go anywhere. But since they did that simply just by taking the bush out, they made a massive difference. So it's that, and also the return lube on these things. On the back here, they used to have a spring and port blow-off valve, yeah. And that used to get stuck in the open stage. So what would happen, it'd actually blow off all the return oil from the radiator, which was supposed to go into the lube circuit. Instead, it was blowing it all off all the time. So in later models, they actually blocked it. They actually took the spring and plunger out and actually blocked it all up. So it was forced to go through. I think they're worried about too much back pressure in the radiator. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
But it never happened. All right, next bit.
Next sun gear.
Nice chunky thing. I wouldn't say like these gears are as big and chunky like the Ford Ranger ones, but the clutches are a good size, the bands are good size on these things. So the gear on there. You got to get that circle about.
Yeah.
You want that one or that one?
No,
That one?
I'll try this one.
Get rid of these parts, don't need these.
It's a little one.
Yeah, little bubby circle that actually holds
Holds the
all the
output
guts
shaft
in,
in.
holds the output shaft in, all the way into the middle of the auto. Right, rear planetary. Very few things go wrong with these. Like I bought one. Annulus. Bearing looks good. Little thrust in the back. It actually
looks pretty good.
It looks like
Yeah.
brand new. That does.
Yeah.
This auto looks suspecting like it's had a very young life. Oh, these sprags. These sprags here are known to give us lots of problems. And you know what? No matter how much you look at them, you can't actually see. They've got little dogs on them. Little dog teeth on them all the way around. And when they wear, it's really hard to see any wear on them. And it takes nothing. You lose a thou or two on them and all of a sudden they slip. So we have to put a brand new one in every single auto simply because they can't be checked right. You can check it by hand as much as you like, that it just works in one direction, but under load, totally different story. Another white thrust, she's like bought one. We've actually had these break before.
Yeah, they'll snap
It's
between
common.
all the tangs.
Yeah, so what happens is on our heavy duty ones, we actually modify these because they actually have so much power, they actually shear the inside of this hub off. You don't see it very often, like it's very rare. You know, tends to be someone clowning around doing a burnout, then suddenly get tons of traction.
Yeah.
And boom, goes the clutch. Next one's the smallest drum in the whole box. Look at colossal great size of a thing. Got a couple of different clutches in there, so we'll rip this. Have a look. Pop him in there. Next circlip. This is actually the forward clutch. Yes? Yes. Double checking. It's also got tiny little thin clutches in this. They are so thin, but there's lots of them. And that's simply because of the room that it had to work with. They all look fine. The teeth have taken a bit of a battering though. Really hard to see, but the teeth have been chattering a little bit. You know, the teeth have been chattering a little bit. Almost impossible to show you on camera, but they're a little dark, but nothing overly wrong there. Nothing that surprises me much. Reach down there and get the next circlip out. This is overrun.
Yep.
This person has not been doing much engine braking at all. Not manually anyway. Beautiful. Alright, now this drum has just got a couple of pistons and we won't worry about that. Turn it upside down. You notice we got another sprag in the back here, another one-way clutch, another roller bearing in there. Where the rings are running in there, all looks good. Another big drum, we'll take that one apart later on. There's an early and a late version of these. This one's actually got a roller bearing on the shoulder. The earlier ones actually had two thrusts on it, where there was actually no bearing at all. They were actually
just two shims, wasn't it?
It was just two shims together, and it was just oil lube, because the oil lube comes directly out in between these shims. That would actually just give them so much lube. They didn't tend to give too much grip, but it must have given them some grip at some point because somebody decided to go, that doesn't look right, so they turned it into a big roller bearing. A bearing on here as well. All right, we'll get that last clutch out.
Pull the output shaft.
Check these rings while you're doing that. Ring's good. I don't think I've ever seen an output shaft on these things break. Try and find out how to do that. Yeah. Once again, nothing wrong with that. You don't want that, you throw these in here.
No. Yeah.
All these springs, look, you get these springs that collapse and sometimes they entangle. They wrap around and make a big mess in there. They're not too bad. That's all the rings off. This little world's thinnest roller bearing, this. Need a roller bearing. They're tiny. Look at that. Not even, gee, they'll be lucky if that's 5 mil from inner edge to outer edge.
Last clutch.
So this one's for low and reverse. Someone has built this before.
Can you tell?
See the patterns?
Someone's used
Someone's
like a whizzer
yeah.
on it. Yeah.
Someone's put a polishing wheel on it. Try to polish it. but they haven't on the plate, so but they have on that. But this clutch is all pretty good as well. I can't see. It looks darker than the rest. There's still nothing there. There's not flaking. It's not blistering anywhere. It's been boring. This one's got a lip seal on it, which is different from some of the rest. It's actually got a little lip on them. But it's just so flexible. You know what I mean? There's other times that you get these so hard and that, you just go to do that and it just snaps them completely. All looks good. The inner one, what have we got left? That's it.
That's it?
That's it for the inside. Well, we're going to have to go and look at this valve body and see if we find something in there. Because really, we haven't found a hell of a lot inside the box.
Didn't he mention that he had a shutter going into lockup?
Well, he thought it was a lock-up shutter, or he felt that it could have been a third gear. Now, it could have been a third gear
Because of how much slop
because it had a lot of clearance in that clutch. And he even changed the torque converter, thinking that it was a lock-up shutter, put a new torque converter in there, and it did exactly the same thing.
Yep.
All right. So I believe we've definitely found his shutter, because as soon as where is it? As soon as we saw, as soon as we saw the clutch, didn't even get it out, we could see that it had way too. I mean, it was over. Yeah, had over double the clearance. I could have stuck another whole steel in there and still gotten the correct clearance. So this was the issue with his shutter. I have no doubt about that. I would have thought the higher pressure from an aftermarket valve body or something would have helped, but he's just got a completely standard valve body in there. But let's go take this valve body apart. We'll see. Let's crack her open and have a look. There's a few things that we'll let you know as we're taking them apart. This is probably a bad example of one to tell you, because this one actually is a very late model valve body. And I can tell straight away because these plates on the side that are underneath the accumulator, the earlier ones were actually half a stick. They didn't have these. I can actually show you in one of the drawers here. It's this plate here. On the earlier model, that plate, the thread used to only come up to that plate. On the later model ones, we actually make these now. We actually make it so there's twice as many threads. So this, you can see this is actually a genuine one. It's actually got so much thread. They actually used to strip out all the time. So we actually replace them all every single time. We put a new set in. Let's get this out. Now these solenoids, when we take them off, we don't even bother testing them or checking them. We actually just completely just throw them in the bin because we replace them. We don't replace them on all, but on the RE4s, it's beneficial enough. These solenoids, after basically 100,000 Ks, they choke up.
Well, they fail that often that it's not worth taking the risk.
No, so we actually just throw them out and put a brand new set in every single time. So that goes out straight away. All right. This is where you do another, 20 minutes later.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
20 minutes later.
Try and take this off. Here we go. Have a look at the plates. You can actually see, really hard, you can see where the check balls have been running. And they actually pound some of these holes, and a lot of these are actually pounded pretty heavily. These gaskets stuck on there. Sometimes these gaskets just fall off for you, and this one's not. She's stuck on there. So she has been warm. Normally these gaskets just fall off. Normally when they've gotten warm, they're actually quite a difficult thing. Take that off. There's your little cap that goes on that spring. Don't want to lose that. Make it look like. Look at the other side. The check balls that are in here have been pounding against here. So that plate is absolutely, here and here and there. This plate's actually stuffed. But still wasn't the reason for the oil getting dark all the time. What have we got?
So your check balls, what we're pounding into the plate.
There's still check ball, cheeky little buggers. Now they're all there. We do a check count. Yes, they're all there. Little spring and cap filter. Take these. You want to put a tray down or something so I can put these on? Everything's in place. Everything looks fine and dandy. That's all the balls. Lovely little mess.
Got
Now-
everything out.
Yep. Do you want to give all the valves a bit of a... Well, that one's not much in.
There's a couple. There's 3 in this one.
Give it a bit of a flick and we'll just make sure all the valves, none of the valves are stuck. I'm not expecting any of the valves to be stuck, because if they were stuck, you'd have a massively burnt clutch or something going on. But we'll have a look at the end valves as well. Oh, looks good. How are they? Good?
That half's good.
This lot, I'll have a look. This is one of the ones that are already from factory. They've already got the updated valve in it. Yep. That's all good. That end plate, no, that end plate won't be moving. Alright, halfway down these bores, you'll see you've got little pins that hold all the valves in. And in this particular model, these are the 2 shift valves, the first, 1, 2 and 3, 4 shift valve. And about, 2/3 of the way down the bore, there's actually 2 more pins. And what they hold, I'll just show you. I might have to clean this up in a sec. I'll just open this drawer. Inside this drawer is actually all the items that we use to update. This is how we build our Nomad and Extreme valve bodies. So we have all our plates of valves, our springs, and we got just a few hundred of these little end caps. I'll just shut this down. And on these little end caps, probably impossible to see. Craig might be able to get a close-up. You'll see there's a radius edge on the inside. On the early models, they were square and they'd snap off. So you'd end up with one half stuck in one side, one half stuck, and it would jam the valve. A lot of people say, I won't change out of first gear or second gear. If it was on an earlier model, we always used to go, let's go to the valve body because these end plates are broken. We replace these every single time. We actually make these. And it's just thousands of the things we go through every single year, which is pretty impressive. And even in here, we make all our own valves and all our own plates. These plates are obviously modified to use for our Nomad valve bodies. They're actually a little bit thicker, and they're actually a hardened steel. It means that the check balls can't pound into them nowhere near as much and damage them nowhere as much. And we also put genuine set, which we mentioned before, we put a genuine set of solenoids. Yeah, genuine set of solenoids on them, which is the 2 shift solenoids and the pressure control and overrun. The only solenoid we really don't change is the lockup solenoid. Nothing ever goes wrong with them. And you do have to be very, very careful because there's a 12 volt set and there's a 24 volt set. So, but really the 24 volt set in Australia was really only on the early imported GQs.
Safari models, I think.
Well, they used to call them Safaris, not Patrols back then.
Okay.
Right? They were the 24 volts. I'm sure someone's going to turn around and say that, no, in this particular model it was like this. But for the most part, and confirm it, if you've got an early GQ that's 24, is it called a Patrol or a Safari? I'm interested to do this. So, yeah, well, James will know, you used to own a GU.
Not a GU, yeah, with an RE4, running a copy shift.
And what'd you do? You sold it just
I've
recently?
upgraded.
You've upgraded?
Or a Toyota.
What is it? A Toyota what?
A RAV4 hybrid.
A RAV4. So you've gone from a GU to a RAV4.
Yep.
Yeah. I know you're all going to be out there busy making comments right now.
Yeah.
Be kind to him. All the Toyota guys are going, yay! Even though it's a RAV4.
Yeah.
But you did it pure and simply. Fuel economy. He bought a house. He got married. Well, did he marry?
In the middle of it.
Yeah. So he's become responsible.
Growing up a bit.
You're growing up a bit. And obviously fuel and everything else is going up and everything like that.
Yes.
But no, it's really good. James actually built his own box, put his CompuShift in, everything worked. This one's actually getting a CompuShift put in it too, which is brilliant. But as for what went wrong, we knew this box wasn't going to be a big blow up. We knew it was going to be mild, but we definitely wanted to pull Tom's gearbox apart because we wanted to try and find his problem. So Tom, if you're watching this, your burnt oil did not come. The reason for that burnt oil is not inside this auto. All right? Either one, it was being done by the torque converter. It could have been on the stall all the time. Maybe lockup wasn't working whatsoever. That can get them really, really hot. The O-ring for the lockup on the front of the box was like fine. All the valves are fine. They're all moving. There's nothing stuck. There's nothing in here to indicate. We did find your third gear shutter, and that would have just progressively gotten
Just
a little bit
slowly
worse
over
over time.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
wouldn't have been a big. It would have gotten to a certain point where the linings just started slipping more and more. Then it would have been a more steep down for. But I love these autos. We put these autos behind all sorts of things and all sorts of power, both manual, full manual jobs. Whether you're doing big horsepower, geez, there's barras going in front of them.
Yeah,
We've got them behind all sorts of LS
LS motors,
arrangements and all that, and even behind a couple of the smaller or the lower power Cummins. Don't mind me, I'm being rude at the moment. I like to take this call, not just yet. I'll do that. I'll get back to it. So if you have any questions about any of the Nissan GU, the 4-speed, the RE4, about what we do, what we can help, all the updates and everything. We just try to do this as a slightly different episode, not so much of a blow-up, to show you the differences between the early and the late model bell housing, the boxes, the extension houses, the shafts, differences in the valve body with all the plates, also those plugs that also snap in the middle of the valve body.
More of an informative video.
Yeah, it's a lot more along that because we got so many customers out there that are GU. They love their GUs. I love this. Like I said, it's the longest standing auto ever put into a car that I know of personally. 1988 to 2015 was the last one that I think I know. Please correct me, but I won't be that far off if I'm not. So please, like, subscribe. If you've got any comments, please throw them in the ring. Don't be harsh on him. He didn't, because he's walked to the dark side now. Don't be too harsh on that. We'll catch up with you in the next episode. Everybody goes off about our squeegees. Like I have a squeegee. It is the most useless squeegee.
No, we upgraded. Last time you were talking shit about it, we got some good ones.
I wouldn't even use a spatula, like a big
That's a big
plate
upgrade from what we
spatula.
had.
And you go, well, so you bought that instead of a spatula.
Yeah.
You need one as wide as the bench.
I'm going to say,
Anyway.
if you're one of our viewers that always wonder about why we don't have, a good squeegee or a good spatula, apparently it needs to go up to upper management again. The decision is not clear.
I think it's more the user, not the tool.
The user is the tool. All right.
Anyway.
We're back on the bench, and it's time to tear down another auto and see what went wrong.
What wrong? Your English.
I have a very small vocabulary. That's it. Anyway, I'll start again.
I wanna be the best in the game, invest in my name. Check no restraints, I'm obsessed with the pain. I ingest, I retain, assess and I change. Possessed by the thought I'll be free one day.